Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live event where we'll be discussing the future of the European economy, industrial policy, the recent report by Mario Draghi. And we'll be discussing this today with Philippe Adriaenssens, Policy Director at the European Roundtable of Industrialists. Welcome, Philippe.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for being with us. So let's perhaps dig immediately into ERT. Just for those who are not familiar with the organization, ERT represents business leaders from European companies representing the major industry and technology companies. So very much your message and your mission has always been around economic growth, jobs, productivity. So the words that we've been hearing in the European bubble over the last few days in particular are not new to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about ERT and your key priorities ahead of this new political cycle?
Sure, with pleasure. And finally, we are hearing these words again. ERT consists currently of 60 CEOs and chairs of the largest European multinational companies. So they're headquartered in the European Union and also in the UK, Norway, Switzerland and Turkey. But they are European companies. We indeed strive for improving Europe's prosperity and welfare, competitiveness, deepening the single market. And that already since the 1980s. ERT famously was created just before Commission President Jacques Delors became president of the European Commission. And it was the first time in 1983 that industrial leaders from various European countries came together. And they sat together with Industry Commissioner Etienne Davignon at that time. And ERT gave, as the organization representing the industry, the major historic push towards the creation of the single market. We really see the single market as the key to improve industry. The best industrial policy is deepening the single market, harmonizing the European Union, creating a simple and coherent regulatory framework so that companies in Europe can thrive, bottom up. And that has worked very well in the 1980s. Jacques Delors really started a big program with 300 legislative proposals in its compendium to do away with customs, to try and work towards a common currency, to get rid of lots of national rules and harmonize these. And that has led to a lot of growth in the 90s. That has led to enlargement. That has led to European companies gaining a lot of productivity, to us becoming again at par in Europe with the US. And it's a bit that flair, that dynamism that we have lost in the last decade and that we hope will come back again with the report of Mario Draghi.
Yeah. Well, a very interesting introduction also about an history which is not that far, but you described, I think, very well. You mentioned dynamism, and that is a little bit the opposite of what we've been seeing lately. And lately is really the last 20 years, and it's becoming worse. The latest numbers are terrifying, I dare to say, because we've seen industrial production has gone down by 3.2%. In Europe of the last year. And so the report clearly of Mario Draghi comes at a very important moment to try and bring the sparkle back, right? The dynamism back, because the words are also very scary. And the one that he pronounced himself, like, slow agony. Either we accept that or we need to have this radical change, right? To stop this from happening and relaunch growth and the European society and the economy to really give us a prosperous future. So I think that the message is very striking. And to what extent you see these signals of hope, particularly in line of the messages that ERT, as you mentioned, has been bringing forward for so many years. Do you recognize elements of the recipe, first of all, of the problems that they identified? Do you agree that these are the crucial issues, that lack of coordination across policy, lack of vision, strategic vision of seeing all the different elements, that need to come together for companies to, be able to continue to invest in Europe and generate this, productivity growth that we so desperately need?
Yes. Well, you've mentioned it. It is, when growth is sluggish, it is a slow agony. So policymakers or citizens or companies don't notice it from one day to the other. But over a long period of time, since 2000, we really see that the productivity gap, our competitiveness, our economic output has really been a lot lower than in the US. And thank God the Draghi report does an excellent diagnosis and puts a lot of figures on the table. For instance, our cost of energy is nowadays still, for electricity, 2 or 3 times higher than in the US. For gas, even 5 to 6 times higher. That is crippling for companies. The number of legislative acts that are passed, we in Europe are record champions in that. And that makes, with every new piece of legislation, the regulatory framework in Europe yet again a bit more complex. And we as ERT have been, and not only us, European Business Europe, Eurocommerce, Eurochamber, so many business associations have been banging on the same drumbeat for years. But we often felt that even though politicians and policymakers were willing to listen, it didn't trickle down, it didn't translate into any policy action to improve things for the better. And we hope that the competitiveness report from Mario Draghi that was released earlier this week will help turn the tide. As ERT, we have issued every 2 years a benchmarking report with KPIs, key performance indicators, measuring how well or how badly Europe is performing vis-à-vis our main competitors. For instance, in the area of 5G, how many antennas on 5G have we rolled out in Europe in comparison to South Korea, to the US, to China, to Japan? And it's flabbergasting. We are falling behind. Europe used to be the leader thanks to Nokia and Ericsson in rolling out 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're lagging behind. And that has a slow agony effect on all the rest of the economy, all the other companies that depend on 5G, on fast internet, to be able to innovate, to produce, to create growth, to create high quality employment and jobs. But no matter how often and how we publish these benchmarking reports and how alarming the numbers on these KPIs were, and not only on 5G, but also on the cost of energy, on the investment capacity of our telecom companies that has been reducing over time, on a number of issues, we felt we were never really heard. And I believe that in democratic systems, it's often when there is a crisis, when things get really bad, that everybody is waking up. Luckily, and thank God, that happened 5-6 years ago with the climate protests and the movements with the climate strikes that led the European Commission to prioritize the Green Deal, to make us the first climate neutral continent in the world. But in order to do that, in order to decarbonize at scale and without losing the industry and the technologies, we have to make sure we are competitive, that our companies can innovate, that our companies can bring these solutions, the better solar panels, the better wind turbines, the hydrogen that we need. And therefore, we are very grateful that Mario Draghi puts this in balance, that he talks about realizing the Green Deal by becoming more competitive. And we believe that that is a good mix, a good policy philosophy for the next 5 years.
Indeed, what you're saying, I think is very relevant in relation to the report, where the word decarbonization is finally put together with competitiveness and industrial policy, right? Because as you say, I think industry has never questioned the first one. So there's been a very strong commitment to go ahead with the decarbonization and with making production processes, but also products more sustainable. So that's not disputed. And there is very strong support. But what has been missing is how do we get there? What does it take to get there? What are the fundamentals that need to be addressed? You know, energy prices, availability of clean tech, and so on and so forth, skills as well, and innovation investment. So I think it's, as you say, very important that these two words has finally been put back together as an opportunity to deliver then the real change beyond the ambitious goals written on paper, let's say.
Yes, sure.
And another important element, I think, that comes out very strongly from the Draghi report is the recipe for this, what he calls a new industrial deal. What does it take to actually bring it? And he mentioned a few elements. One we mentioned earlier, more coherent policy making, more strategic vision across trade, energy, industrial policy, competition. He mentions the financing, which is huge. 800 billion was the number that he gave. But he also mentioned the single market. And, we started this discussion really around, the foundation of ERT and how the single market was really at the center of what you were advocating and you still are very much doing. So I think even though the report doesn't dwell too much into the single market, because it recognizes that there was a previous report only a few months ago by Enrico Letta, which went very deep into suggesting a recommendation on how to deal with the fragmentation of the single market. I think it's important that it puts some very important number on the table, right? We are currently losing 10% of our GDP potential in national barriers.
Yes,
which is crazy, right? Yeah. So how do you see, because we know this fragmentation is there, how do you see the responses that have been coming so far to industry, calls for addressing these national barriers? Do you think industry has been heard? Do you think there is ownership of the single market at the moment in the European institution?
Clearly not enough, but I think momentum is building, thankfully. We see that the single market is mentioned horizontally across the report of Mario Draghi. And indeed, as you say, he builds on the Enrico Letta report, which was finalized in April, and Enrico Letta presented it to the European Council. And the European Council already requested the European Commission to develop, by June 2025, a new horizontal strategy on the single market. And the Draghi report gives some additional ideas for that. The Capital Markets Union, the Banking Union, getting rid of the fragmentation, making sure that in the telecom sector or the digital sector, there is more harmonization. Also in the energy sphere, in order to get to lower electricity and gas prices, it is important to build an energy union with more interconnectors between countries and more stable and foreseeable pricing, so that companies also invest more in clean and renewable energy in Europe. So decarbonization and the health of our economy in digital, in circular, in so many aspects, in energy, is really linked to the single market. That is what will make energy thrive. That will give energy to industry, to any other company doing business here, to scale up faster and attract more private investment. Indeed, the report of Mario Draghi suggests 800 billion euros in investment. We are principally not against new investment as ERT, but we always prioritize policy actions and solutions that wouldn't require necessarily additional money that comes from taxpayers. In some areas, it might be needed to help accelerate decarbonization, to help in an interim period, reduce the cost of energy still until we have more renewable energy coming online for companies. But there are so many solutions out there that can improve our economy for the better, that doesn't necessarily cost money to national budgets. And one of these, indeed, is a single market. And we as ERT have, since 2021, when we launched a flagship publication with 30 stories of our CEOs on limitations and fragmentation in the single market, felt that initially, 3-4 years ago, it wasn't picked up. Commissioner Breton listened to it, read it, but we felt that the European Commission didn't take follow-up action to start removing all these barriers. Maybe 30 wasn't enough. So last year, with a lot of other associations, we collected 100 plus obstacles, examples in the single market, in packaging, in labeling, in digital, in telecoms, in banking, in taxes, in VAT, you name it. Name any sector of the economy and you will find companies that struggle with having to adapt their product or their service to different member states. And we have illustrated that in our compendium that we launched together with a joint statement back in February of this year. And we see that it has been picked up by Enrico Letta, by Mario Draghi, and we can only encourage Commission President von der Leyen and all the incoming commissioners to really look at the single market as part of the big drive towards simplification, harmonization, and making sure that policies are more streamlined and that we decomplexify the regulatory framework in the European Union.
Well, that's a very encouraging note. I think a very strong message as well. To probably close up our discussion, we know that the timing of the publication of the report is also very relevant because we are in a phase where the new commissioners that will make up the college for the next 5 years are being nominated as we speak. They will receive letters with a mission, and I think it would be very important to start seeing some of these key proposals that are already identified largely in the report and that you also stress very much, in particular on the single market, that should be across all of the different policies as well. We'll see some of that in these letters, first of all, to start getting a clear signal that these are not just reports that to put back in a drawer, but that can help initiate a real radical change using, appropriating myself for the words of Mario Draghi. Yeah. I would like to thank you very much, Philippe, for this very pleasant conversation, for your insights, and looking forward to continue our dialogue together. And for the people that have been watching online, thank you very much for participating, for listening, and please stay tuned for more discussions around relaunching European competitiveness.